It's finally spooky season. I mean, spooky season is all the time, but today I'm going to do something a little weird for me, and that is to make something kind of modern, but also historical-ish at the same time. I'm sure by now you will have seen, even if you didn't know that's what you were looking at, the cottagecore slash Gunne Sax, is it Gunne Sax? Gunne Sax? I don't know. These, editing Kate here, it's Gunne Sax apparently, so ignore me. So, knowing that these dresses are coming back and spooky season is upon us, a good friend of mine in the CosTube community has come up with a collaboration for us in which we take the aesthetic of the floofy dresses and combine it with this stuff. And I don't think I have to hand sew any of it. So anyway, here's my inspiration. I'm going to go about making this in a way that I'm pretty sure they didn't do in the 70s, but in a way that makes sense for me. And that means starting with a separate black velvet bodice. Do I have a pattern for this? No. So what could go wrong? Like I said, my bodice is going to be some black cotton velvet, and I'm going to line it with a cotton sateen also. I don't have a pattern for this. I thought I did. I thought I had like this Renaissance bodice thing. I can't find it. So instead, I'm going to Franken pattern this American Duchess Outlander thing. Because if you look here, they've got some pieces that actually make a relatively decent bodice. Maybe. We'll find out. I hate tissue paper. Apparently my chaos sometimes upsets my friends, so here I am folding my pattern relatively neatly. You're welcome, Carolyn. Before I transfer everything to actual paper that doesn't disintegrate, I'm going to make a quick mock-up out of some cotton lawn and then adjust the pattern from there. Shockingly, considering how short I am, the pattern actually fit quite well, just automatically. I added a little bit at the front here. I added too much, but whatever. And I only had to shorten the entire thing by about 3/4 of an inch, which is not much. So this might be a really short-waisted pattern, just FYI. Because I enjoy living dangerously, I'm not going to make another mock-up, and instead I'm just going to cut out my lining out of my cotton sateen, and then perhaps I will briefly try it on if I'm feeling particularly lawful, but I mean, you and I both know that's not going to happen, right? Oh good, I'm almost out of black thread. Excellent timing. My cotton sateen started to fray like mad, so even though I'm going to mostly bag line this and every raw edge will be enclosed, I'm going to go ahead and serge this so it doesn't just end up a pile of threads. Ta-da, we have a bodice. I added 2 bones at the side front as well as 2 bones at the center front to sort of hold everything together. In retrospect, I probably should have put in at least 1 more bone, but oh well. My initial plan for lacing up the front was to add these little silk ribbon silk ribbon loops, and that did not work well. I guess that's not fair to the ribbon. It might just have been my lazy patterning job, but I didn't like how uneven the front was and everything kept slipping around, so I thought eyelets might be a little bit more secure than the extremely slippery silk ribbons. Plus, I mean, come on, I wasn't going to get through an entire project without hand sewing. That's just not who I am. Filming black velvet? Worst idea I've ever had, possibly. I did very minimal filming of the bodice thing because it was honestly completely pointless. I don't have the technical skills to film it. So I took off the ribbon loops on the bodice and replaced it with hand sewn eyelets and then covered that with some more lace. I'm not sure if that's actually gonna fix the weird this shape that the lacing was doing with the ribbon. I don't actually think that's the problem. I think honestly the top is just a little bit too big and I needed to fit it a bit better, but I don't have time. This is a 1-day project and I need to get it done, so oh well, we're just gonna have to go with it. But I think the eyelets and spiral lacing will keep it more secure than the cross lacing. We'll see. But now I need to go ahead and make the dress. The dress hopefully will not be a big deal because I'm just going to make a shift shape, like a very wide, you'll see. Part of the reason that we all decided to do this is because Gwen realized that there was like a sale at Spoonflower and something Halloween-y. I don't know. I think it's called poison plants or something, but it's got like yew and hemlock and holly and skulls and random dead hands, and I love this fabric so much. This is going to be the main body of the dress. Now, where did I put the rest of it? So this one is from the same collection. It is the skulls that are in the poison plants fabric, but just by themselves with little dots. I think I'm going to use this for the sleeves. I only have half a yard, so I'll definitely have to make the sleeves kind of like 3/4 length. Thank you, me, for being short, I guess. So I'll use that for the sleeves, and then I have a little tiny bit of this stripy lawn, and all of this is printed on lawn, so it doesn't actually feel like lawn. It feels like a lightweight quilting cotton, to be honest, but at least it's nice and soft and smooth, and I think that it'll hold the drape that I want better than an actual quilting cotton. I very nearly did this out of chiffon. If I could do silk chiffon, that would be amazing, but I can't. They don't have that. They have polyester. I try really hard not to buy synthetics if I can avoid it. So anyway, those are my fabrics, and then I've got some lace, which I already made a flower crown for this because we're gonna lean into the cottagecore thing. So yeah, I'm using some more of this lace here. Are we gonna focus? Hello? So I've got some of this really nice insertion lace that I'm going to use at the bottom of the ruffle, but I also put it on the flower crown here. I don't actually think this is gonna take... I shouldn't say that. I'm gonna regret saying that, right? Okay, for a one-day make, you kind of have to do what you know, and I've already wasted more than half of my day on that ridiculous velvet bodice, so my dress is going to be a very basic 18th century-ish shift with a very wide drawstring neckline, gathered sleeves, and then I'm going to gather the sleeve ends to a cuff, which is not 18th, well, I mean, they definitely did that in the 18th century, but not quite as wide as I'm doing, and definitely not with skull-printed cotton lawn. I swear that I'm measuring, and here you can see me cutting out the underarm gussets, because being an 18th century shift, there's no weird arm-shaped sleeve things, it's just rectangles and squares. I'm so relieved that I had enough of this fabric to make sleeves, as well as a couple of strips to make a drawstring casing later. This stripe fabric, like I said, is going to be the ruffle, and I'm so impressed with myself with this chaotic folding that this ended up being, like, I didn't measure anything because, I mean, why would I do that? But I'm chaotically folding it into threes, and it actually ends up being exactly correct. So sometimes you guys just go with it. Rather than mess with really complicated French seams or having to fell seams later by hand, I'm just serging all of the pieces, and that makes the thing go together quite quickly. If you're curious about the geometry of how exactly shift sleeves go together, I'll link my shift tutorial video for you up here and in the description. With the sleeves put together, I stitched a little opening so that I can make a cuff later. Also, in case you weren't aware, underarm gussets are kind of magic. After running a bunch of gathering threads in the sleeves and then hemming the bottom of the dress, I went ahead and gathered up the top of the sleeve so that I could fit it into the shoulder seam of the dress slash shift thing, and that is just some kind of geometrical magic that I can't fully explain, but it's so satisfying when everything lines up correctly. Getting all that sleeve circumference into that tiny cuff was kind of a pain, but I did it. I knew going into it that this dress was going to involve a lot of ruffling, but that's not my favorite activity, so I think this is the only time I filmed it. Overall, I'm quite happy with how the sleeve cuff came out. I'm going to turn the end under and stitch it down and then finish the cuff with buttons. I also really like the length of the sleeve because when the cuff is closed, there's a nice blousey effect without being ridiculous looking. Also, underarm gussets, still magic. Obviously, I need to put all of this into a drawstring, and to make the drawstring, I need to put a small eyelet into the casing that I made in the neckline and forgot to film, and then I have to put a silk ribbon through the casing. I did this no less than 3 times because I kept accidentally losing my bodkin inside the casing, and I cannot recommend doing this at the end of a super long day. Very annoying. I briefly considered doing a row of this skull fabric along with the lace insertion along the ruffle, but decided that was going to be an epic pain, and decided that lace and ruffle is plenty. I did use the skull fabric though to make myself a drawstring casing at the waist to pull in the dress a bit more. Lace insertion is such a pain and so finicky, but it's kind of worth it. I mean, come on. I paired the dress with a void cat, some bat tights, and my American Duchess Astoria shoes. And then I went outside to freak out my neighbors. I feel like this is what a hobbit would look like if they were raised in Mordor. But just, actually, kind of like that. Overall, super happy with this outfit. Not so stoked with the way the bodice came out. It's very neat and I did like a decent job, like technically. I just think had I had the actual pattern that I thought I had, which is, this is why people don't de-stash their pattern. This is why costumers are hoarders, because once you get rid of something, you think you still have it, and then it's gone. If I actually had the pattern that I thought I had, I think that this would have come out a bit better, but instead having to Franken pattern something that is not meant to work this way, this could have gone a little better. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you again next week for another video. Bye. It's hot. It's October. Okay. If I could do silks of chiffon, there's a kitten down there trying to take this. Is this what you want? Is this, you just want to be on camera?